Here we go. Let me get this seat up. It's quite low. And I am on. Look at this. Here we go. Let's get this up. Ah, nice.
There, it looks like it's coming on, yeah.
Yeah, so come on in, everybody. And some people expect me on at 8. And here we go. Brian Jaffe jumps aboard. Brian, thank you so much for coming by last time. My new buddy, Brian Jaffe, was at the Ring 8 meeting last night. Thank you so much for coming by. Mark Abrams jumps aboard, the busiest publicist out there. I don't know how many shows he covers in a week. More than anybody, I'll tell you that. And, of course, Daniel Sisneros is here, and we'll tell you more about Daniel in a minute. And we got Don Ackerman on, one of the very best judges on the planet. Don, I was with a couple of your colleagues last night. I was with John McKay and Steve Weisfeld. So when you talk about you guys in one breath, John McKay, Steve Weisfeld, Don Ackerman, three of the very best judges on this planet. Joe Tetro joined me on Randy's Ringside. Richard Daly. Baker Geist, young sports writer from Colorado, jumps aboard here on a nighttime version of Randy's Ringside. Trying to do it on Wednesday nights now instead of Wednesday afternoon. So Monday and Friday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, and either 8 or 9 o'clock on Wednesday. 3 days a week, Randy's Ringside, with occasional specials on the weekend. I have a very special guest, and he's on the line, so you'll be hearing his voice. And one of these days, I'll figure out how we can do a split screen, so you'll be able to see the guest on the other side. I tried it last time. It didn't seem to work, and it just kind of knocked me off the air. So until I figure it out, maybe one of my producers at SiriusXM can figure it out. And his name is Daniel Sisneros, and Daniel is out of New Mexico. He is a former judge in New Mexico, and I must tell you, Daniel, first of all, welcome to the show. And you were in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you've since moved, but you're still in New Mexico. Where are you in New Mexico?
Thanks for having me on, Randy. Yeah, I'm in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Okay.
We're about 3 hours south of Albuquerque.
And what's your weather like now? I mean, we're not into real spring yet. I think in the next couple of days now in New York, it's going to be in the 60s every day. What's your temperature like?
Oh, southern New Mexico is shorts year-round pretty much. Right now we're probably running in it's been bouncing back and forth between the high 60s, mid 80s. It was a little windy today, but I love the weather down here. I'm an LA boy, but I really like it down here in southern New Mexico.
Love visiting there. It's been a while since I've been there, but it is really one of my favorite states. And you were born and raised in New Mexico?
Actually, I was born in Pueblo, Colorado, but my parents packed us up and moved me out to Los Angeles area, Southgate, California. And that's where I grew up, and we moved. I got married. I married my high school sweetheart, and we moved out to Albuquerque, New Mexico in the late 80s, lived there until about 2001. Then we made the move down here to Las Cruces. So the cities keep getting smaller and smaller, but that's okay with me. Right.
Well, I will tell everybody that, you were an outstanding judge. Back up until about 1998, a family tragedy took you out of that, and you left boxing for a while, and we are so glad that you are back again. And
thank you.
We're going to get to a project that you did that I want to tell everybody about. I've mentioned it before because I want to give some shout-outs, as all these guys are tremendous boxing guys jumping aboard. Robbie Patterson from Scotland has jumped aboard. Farley Wall, my statistical producer. You got Commissioner Ron Scott Stevens, former commissioner in New York, now an outstanding judge in California. And we got Jessica Goldstein watching us here on Randy's Ringside. Jeff Tavel. And who else? We got John Blanken. Are you a first-timer? And we got Ralph Broderick watching here on Randy's Ringside here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The big news today, of course, is there are a couple letters and numbers put together. GW1516. What is GW1516? No, that's not when George Washington was president in 1516. GW 1516 is a PED called Endurabol. And Endurabol gives you tremendous amounts of stamina, where you could basically outrace a racehorse. The horse will get tired before you will. And a man by the name of Jarrell Big Baby Miller, who is supposed to be fighting Anthony Joshua for all the championship belts, has just tested positive for GW 1516. Now, we don't know if that was sample 1 and another sample is going to be coming back and what's going to be on with that. But my experience with it is, you have a couple of samples. One is going to be the same as the next. And would not be the first time that Big Baby Miller has tested positive before he was a contender in boxing. He was in kickboxing and he failed a drug test for something else. But this is a serious drug test. This is a drug, a PED that is not only banned, but VADA and other organizations have really put up warnings about it. You will be suspended if you're caught using it. It is banned, but it is a very dangerous drug. When it's administered by doctors, it's used to treat cardiovascular disease because, as I said, it increases lung capacity and heart capacity, oxygen absorption, and for people with failing lungs and hearts, maybe like emphysema, things like that, this GW 1516 is used. But if you're a big, healthy athlete and you are pouring this stuff into you to try to just get bigger and stronger and have unending stamina, it can kill you. And the warnings are out there from VADA and others. Don't use it. You will be suspended and you could die from it. Well, I don't know, I'm not about to convict Big Baby Miller yet, but Daniel, have you been hearing the talk out there in New Mexico about this? Is it big in boxing circles yet out there?
I haven't really talked to anybody, New Mexico specifically, but I know, man, it sure is lighting up the internet. That's for sure.
Yeah. So
I was shocked when I heard about it. I know that when the first time I caught wind of it, I just thought, man, what is Big Baby thinking? What is happening?
Well, I was at a Ring 8 meeting last night where I was the guest speaker, and it was right about the time that I was done with the speech that we heard about it, and I could not believe my ears. Let me give a few more shout-outs as people are jumping aboard here. Bert Gleason, Christian German. We got John Rowe. Hey, it was great seeing you last night, taking some pictures with you, put them up on Facebook. Tony Palillo. Tony, how are you? You and Kathy. Love to you guys. Who else we got here on Randy's Ringside? Yeah, Bert Gleason, you're saying steroids, plain and simple. Well, apparently that's what it was. Steroids, plain and simple. But again, I don't like convicting anybody, no matter how it seems. Because you do look rather foolish if you jump all over them. And then you find that maybe something went awry in the test or whatever. I want to give a big shout out to Gino Arilata. Gino, President, Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame. Gino, great speaking to you. Thank you for reaching out, buddy. Rich Commissar, manager extraordinaire, has moved back to the East Coast from the West Coast. Why you did that, though, I know you wanted to be around the grandkids and everything. But this is apparently Rich Commissar, who's joining us right now, Daniel. He now lives in Jersey, absolutely one of the great boxing guys you'll ever meet. He is the guy who gave Big Baby Miller his nickname, Big Baby. So,
wow, cool.
Rich, I'm going to ask you directly, Rich. You're on with us. you'll always support the kid. And I hear you. I'm not dumping on him right here. Daniel Sisneros is not going to dump on him right here. We are just talking about what we've heard. And what we've heard is that he has tested positive for a very powerful and very dangerous PED, GW1516, which apparently works on the cardiovascular system in the heart and the lungs, and it can increase, I don't know if it's 10-fold, 20-fold, 100-fold, but it is massive. It is used in small amounts by surgeons and doctors in trying to treat some very severe cardiac cases and cardiovascular issues. But when you're a very healthy athlete and you start taking these things to get bigger and faster and stronger and be able to last a lot longer, it's cheating. And if you cheat, these things are just not allowed. And this is the second time he's getting hit. So I'm not going to make a statement here about what I think should be done. But what I think should be done is, obviously, and they are going to do it, they're going to be looking very carefully into maybe testing him again, maybe taking the A, B, and C samples or so that he gave, if there was a C, but definitely the B, and then taking a look at that and see how that came back. And then they're going to have to make a decision. And I think the decision, if those samples are positive, I don't see how they can let him go through with the fight, with the challenge of Anthony Joshua. How could a guy who has tested positive for a banned substance, especially one as powerful and as dangerous as GW1516, I know if I was Anthony Joshua, I wouldn't accept somebody if he tested positive and he was given the green light, which would be silly if they did. So the question is, over the next couple of days, they're going to have to make a ruling whether this fight is, well, not so much whether the fight, but if they are positive tests or negative tests. If they're negative, the fight goes on. If, I suppose, Anthony Joshua really wants to go through with it, and if it's a positive test, the fight will be off. And then who could possibly be put in his place? Now, one of those names that's been getting thrown around is a guy from Kazakhstan. Daniel, I don't know if you've heard this name come up. He's unbeaten in 7 fights, 7 pro fights. He's 7-0 with 7 knockouts. Ivan Dychko, Dychko. He's from Kazakhstan. 6'9", and he lost a very close decision to Anthony Joshua in the 2012 Olympics, the Olympics that Anthony Joshua won a gold medal in. And Dychko, I believe, won the bronze medal. And it was a decision that did not sit well with him. He believed he won the fight, and he always knew that one day he would do his best to try to get Anthony Joshua back in the ring. And he said, listen, I'm ready right now. If Big Baby Miller steps out, I am ready. And I almost think that would be an incredible matchup. Yes, he's only 7-0, but he's got 7 knockouts. He's 6'9" with a lot of amateur fights. Daniel, if you heard it was going to be Dychko, would you be vastly surprised?
I would be shocked. I've never even heard of this guy.
No, virtually nobody has.
But his background, what you're telling me, I guess it could be built up to be somewhat interesting, but I just think I feel like the guy would be jumping ahead of some more deserving people who've been out there battling, and this is bad for Big Baby, no doubt, but it's a opportunity for someone out there, and I think there's just guys that have been, have put in their time. That's the way I feel about it anyway. I guess I'm kind of old school on that. Give me a guy at least 15, 20 fights at least. I don't know, 7-0. He would probably be a worthy challenger, but I don't like it, Randy. I think there's guys out there that have paid their dues. Look at like Adam Kozlowski, maybe Andy Ruiz, somebody like that who, they put in their time. Maybe they've earned a shot. I don't know about this guy.
Well, you're absolutely right. Andy Ruiz has put his time in. He's only lost one fight, and that one fight was to a decision to Joseph Parker. And another one that absolutely comes to mind, I don't know that he's ready for a title shot now because he really has done a lot to change his body around up. And he launched the comeback, has won a couple of fights on the comeback trail, is Chris the Nipple Areola.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he's been a title challenger before. I think he's somewhat worthy, although a lot of people may have jumped off the bandwagon with him.
I haven't. I got to tell you something. I was never really on his bandwagon, and then I kind of got on it because I just liked his attitude after, and he said, I realize I've made mistakes. And after he got knocked out by Wilder, and you could tell that he was not happy with himself, and he took time off. I saw him November 30th. I saw him like right before I was in California, and I was in the hotel walking around with referee Jack Reese, and we were heading out to dinner, and we ran into Chris Areola, and I looked at him, and I went up to him, I said, Chris Areola? And he said, yeah, hey, Randy. And he said, it's me. I looked at him, I said, where'd half of you go? He said, I've launched a comeback, and I'm going to be very serious about it. It's something I should have been a long time ago. And, you were right. You called me fat boy and everything. And I got to tell you, I said, I always thought you might be mad at me. He said, no, because you were right. And he's got a great sense of humor. And he's got a very big punch. Do not take anything away from him. But I would like to see him get into a little bit tougher fight, work his way back a little bit. I'm not talking for years and years and 12, 15 fights or whatever, 2 or 3 more fights maybe. And I think that the new Areola, because of his big punching power, could do something. But I think perhaps Areola could be considered. I think, like you said, Andy Ruiz could be considered. There are others. It wouldn't surprise me if Povetkin got thrown back into the mix over there. But I'm also, again, this guy that really nobody knows, this Ivan Ditchko, just because he did fight Joshua in the amateurs, in the Olympics, just because he is 6'9", that he is a giant, a heavy-hitting giant, 7-0 with 7 knockouts. You might think, and remember, it's not a lot of fights anymore. Once upon a time when, I guess, Leon Spinks fought the great Muhammad Ali, and Leon was something like 6-0-1 and went into the fight against Ali and beat him. Well, it's nothing anymore for guys to take title fights right out of the box. Hey, look at Lomachenko. But then if you do look at Lomachenko, I think you're looking at just a very special fighter. And while we're just on Lomachenko, what do you think? Am I jumping the gun on him by saying that this is one of the great fighters that I've seen in a long time? Am I jumping the gun, do you think?
Oh, I wouldn't say you're jumping the gun, but I'm still a little bit skeptical myself. And like I said, I am old school. To see anyone, no matter how talented and how much promise they have, to see someone with 2 or 3 fights fighting for a world title, again, that just me, and I know I'm in the minority on that. It didn't sit well with me. I just felt like there's an obligation to get in there, pay your dues, get at least 10, 12 fights before you fight for title. But Lomachenko proved himself. He's definitely worthy, and he seems to be getting better. He's more people are starting to follow him and fall in line. So, I guess he and his management, Bob Arum, whoever was able to push him forward so fast, knew something that I didn't. I knew he was, capable, and I don't question his ability, but now he's at the top of the pound-for-pound list, and there's a little bit of, argument there. People, they feel like Crawford should be up there, Errol Spence, these guys. But I think Lomachenko has definitely proven himself worthy, and, when you think about a fight, him taking on, and you start throwing names out there, only the top names will do. So, I guess I've been proven wrong in that, because Lomachenko, to me, has proven he is worthy. He is great. So, I don't think you're jumping the gun.
Well, I just want to stay on him for a second because I don't know if a lot of people have heard about this, but they do know Teo Lopez, the unbeaten lightweight, who's only about 21 years old. He also is promoted by Top Rank's Bob Arum. And on my show with Jerry Cooney last week, he was calling out Lomachenko. Said, I'll fight him. He said, but you know what? I'm not going to be a lightweight forever. And if I can't get him in the ring by, I think he said it was next January, he said, I'm going to be moving up to 140. So if I can't get him by then, but then Lomachenko to that says, if he gets himself a title belt, I'll fight him. I don't want to fight guys without title belts. I want to fight nothing but the best. And basically, that's what he's been doing. I mean, we didn't think that Anthony Corolla stood any kind of a chance, but I really didn't think. I thought Anthony was good enough to hang with him for a little while. Anthony just got totally beaten up. And from what we understand, he got beaten up by a one-handed fighter because in the fight, I believe it was his right hand that suffered a break. And Lomachenko handled it as if there was no break there. But I do believe that one of the knuckles, I think it was on his right hand, did break. Unfortunately, and we don't know how bad a break, was it a clean break or whatever? Is he going to need surgery on that? Because if he needs surgery, that's going to be 6, 7, 8 months out of action. If it was just a clean break, it might just be 3, 4 months or so. But again, if it was surgery, it's going to be a lot longer time. I hope not, because watching him fight is just something very, very special. And we're on with Daniel Sisneros of New Mexico, who is not a former writer. He's a writer. He is a former judge. Would love to see him get back with that scorecard and his pen and pencil and everything. By the way, have you ever considered going back as a judge?
Oh, I think about it all the time, Randy, but I don't know. The older I get, the farther away from it I get, I just...
But you're not...
think it'd just be kind of hard to get back into it,
But you're not far away. You're not far away. You're very much in the game. You wrote a terrific book, Matt Tales, which I think you're working on a sequel. Tell us a little bit about Matt Tales. I have read it. I thought it was a tremendous book. Where can people still find Matt Tales?
Oh, thank you, Randy. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And it's only available on Amazon. And there's a paperback version and you can get a Kindle version. And it's a lot of fun, and I'm really pleased with the feedback. Boxing fans have it came out just the way I wanted it to be. It's 32 individual tales, and each one is there's crazy things that happen in boxing.
You think?
People falling out of the ring and fans going crazy and riots, and there's some touching stories in there too. But the good thing is each tale is its own little story, and so you don't have to read from cover to cover to find out, did the butler do it or not. There's no end to the story. They're just 32 individual tales, and boxing fans have really made me feel good about how much they've enjoyed it. So the publisher's happy, and yeah, we are working on volume 2, and I don't know when that'll be ready, but I had a word limit on this book, and I had several tales that I had to choose. I had to cut some out, so it was tough, but I pulled them aside. But those are ready to go for the second volume, so hopefully that'll come out soon, maybe by the end of this year.
How long did it take you to write the book?
It took me about 8 months a hard 8 months, maybe 10 months, overall, because I contacted a lot of, since you're in the book too, by the way, thank you for being part of it.
Well, thank you for having me.
And it was the contributors, I've got boxing people, officials and boxers themselves, Thomas Triber, the ring announcer, and, you, Randy Gordon, it was awesome, and Mike Weaver wrote the foreword for me. So reaching out to contact all these people and getting responses back, took a little time, a little doing, but it was worth it. Referee Vic Duwaisaki's in here.
Right.
Woody Kozlowski, who, is always joining you here on Randy's Ringside, one of the great referees. He's in the book too. So a lot of contributors and pulling all that together took a little time. So maybe about 10 months altogether.
Well, it's a great read, and I recommend it to all the fight fans out there. It's called Matt Tales, written by the guy who's on the line with us right now, Daniel Sisneros. From, do you like it pronounced as more Spanish, Sisneros or Cisneros?
That's funny, Randy. You know, when I was in California, it was Sisneros. When I came to New Mexico, it was Sisneros. So I guess I go with Sisneros now more.
Cisneros.
Yes, sir.
I like it like that.
Cisneros, it's okay either way.
It sounds better. Daniel Cisneros on with us. Really a terrific boxing guy. And he's going to hang with us right up until the end. And we've been talking about his book, Matt Tales. We've been talking about, of course, the flunked drug test. What we think is the flunked drug test of heavyweight contender Jarrell Big Baby Miller, who on June 1st is supposed to be challenging Anthony Joshua at Madison Square Garden. I mean, for me, I'm in boxing heaven because on May 18th, I'm going to be 2 weeks earlier. I'm going to be ringside at the Barclays Center when Deontay Wilder takes on Dominic Breazeale for his WBC title. And then 2 weeks later, it's supposed to be Anthony Joshua against Big Baby Miller. And a few more quick shout-outs, and there is Queen Ronnie joining us. And Smitty, you hold it right there, Smitty, because I want to throw a question to you. James Smith, the best MC in this business, and Jose Toledo. And, you know, Smitty, I also said best MC, terrific man on the mic, color analyst, and everything else. You do a tremendous job. And I want to throw something at you, Smitty. I'm on with Daniel Sisneros out of New Mexico, former judge. He's a writer. And, you know, we're not about to convict Big Baby Miller. You know, he has apparently tested positive for something called GW1516, which enhances strength and especially stamina. You could fight all night long and not even get tired, which always made me wonder about him. I wonder how long he's been doing this, because when you're a guy of 315 pounds or so, just walking around at that weight, you get tired. And he doesn't ever seem to be tired, and maybe that's why. But Smitty and anybody else out there, have you heard anything? Is there anything that has broken that I have been out for the last several hours just doing everything from interviews about Big Baby and about my book, Glove Affair, and everything else. So I have not heard. Has anybody heard any breaking news on the Big Baby Miller situation? If you have, let me know. And his former manager is right here. Rich Commissar has joined us. If he's guilty, he needs to be held responsible. Absolutely. I love him. And his beautiful family. Listen, I think, you know, for us who know him, Rich, I think, you know, I feel the same way. You know, as a journalist in the sport, and so many of these fighters touch my life, I don't want to see any of them in trouble. You know, I wish an Adrian Broner could handle himself different. I wish Gervonta Davis could handle himself different. But it's their lives. In the end, it's their lives. And, you know, when guys do something wrong, when they commit a crime, a felony, and they get sent away for it for a long time, maybe for life, they sit in that prison. And maybe at first they're not too remorseful, but as time goes on and they realize they're never getting out again, and that they could have done this and they could have done that, their lives could have been so much different, they change. Maybe they do grow up in prison, but they realize they're never getting out, and they wish things could have been different. Well, they could have been had they done it differently then, but sometimes that's what life does to you. And Big Baby Miller, I'm sure if he doesn't get this title shot, you got to realize he was going to get around $6 million for the fight. He knew he was going to get $6 million, and yet he threw it away. He took that winning lottery ticket, and he basically ripped it up and threw it away. Like, I don't want it. I was asked today, Daniel, and everybody else, I was asked, why do you think these guys do it? I mean, don't they know they're going to get caught? And Baker Geist, who's watching right now, Baker, I believe you're the one who asked me that question. And I was asked the question actually several more times today by different people. And I guess everybody thinks about that. Why do they do it? Don't they know they're going to get caught? Here's the story. When there's somebody out there committing a crime, when they're doing whatever they're doing, some felony, are they thinking, I'm going to get caught? No. They're robbing a bank. They intend to go into that bank and walk out with as much money as they can. Are they thinking, I'm going to get caught? They think, there's a possibility I'm going to get caught, but they're not thinking, I am going to get caught. And then I'm going to have to pay the consequences. And the consequences are going to be many, many years in prison. They don't think they are the one that's going to get caught. These fighters know that there's other guys out there doing it. And they think, well, they're doing it. They haven't been caught, and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to get caught. I'm too shrewd for that. And they go ahead and do it. And now, Big Baby Miller, who's such an enjoyable interview. And Daniel, I don't know how many fighters over the years you've interviewed, and many of you journalists who are watching right now, how many you've interviewed. I have interviewed everybody from Muhammad Ali to Willie Pep, Joe Frazier, and just on and on and on and on. Big Baby Miller is one of the most fun guys to interview that I have ever had in front of a microphone. Who knows? Could he have beaten Anthony Joshua? He certainly was big enough, strong enough. Joshua hasn't shown me the great, he hasn't shown me the George Chuvalo, Ray Mercer kind of chin, the Larry Holmes kind of chin. Can it be he's been down? He'll probably go down again in his career, probably get up again. But that was not an unwinnable fight for Big Baby Miller. And it was a fight that he was going to get around $6 million for. And had he won the fight, think how many, perhaps hundreds of millions he could have won. Now, he tests positive, and we're waiting to find out if indeed that positive is going to stick. Daniel, I know you don't have any more information than I do, but what's your gut feeling on this whole thing?
Oh, I'm just like you, Randy. I'm just waiting to see what unfolds. I mean, we've got it, like you said, I don't want to, jump on the guy and say he's this or that. We have to wait and see, the final result. It doesn't look good, that's for sure. But I just don't know why somebody would, like you say, take that lottery ticket and tear it up. I certainly felt like Joshua was a big favorite, but I wanted to see the fight. I wanted to see what's going to happen. I wanted Big Baby Miller to have his shot, show his skills against Joshua. Joshua, he's still, out there to be tested a little bit. There's still a lot of questions about him, and I just think it's just a shame. And I mean, I'm hoping for some good news, but I don't know. It doesn't look good, Randy. And with your background as former commissioner of the New York Athletic Commission, I think you're more connected than I would ever be. Something like this. I mean, have you seen something like this happen under your watch?
Yeah, there were guys who tested positive, let's say, for cocaine. And that was the A sample, and the B sample came back, and it was positive. I have had guys, and listen, one of the things that was a banned substance, and I believe it still is marijuana, which so many today use. And it's legal in many places. But just because it's legal, let's say in California, and it might not be legal in New York, you can't come into New York as a fighter, as an athlete, because there are sheets that are given to you. And on the sheet that is given to the fighter, it says, these are banned substances. And there's a whole list of them. And it's up to you, you as the manager, you as the fighter, to take a look at that. And it could be as simple as aspirin. Now it says if you have taken any of these, especially like the aspirins, Advil, or anything like that, Aleve, let us know. Well, why? You don't want to be taking a lot of aspirin, whatever, because it promotes thinner blood. It promotes bleeding, if you will. And that's just what a fighter needs when he gets whacked on the head a few times, is a brain bleed.
Yeah.
There's a reason for these substances being banned. And if you have taken it, maybe you just took an aspirin last night. It was the first time you took an aspirin in a year. Well, it's not going to do anything to you. But when your urine sample comes back, it will show that is in there. And if you put down, have you taken any of these? Yes or no? Very simple. You circle yes, you circle no. If you circle no, and it comes back that something like an aspirin was found in your system, you lied. You said no. You can't say, I forgot I took an aspirin last night. Let the commission know what you took. I can't tell you how many times guys tested positive for marijuana. They come in screaming that I never do it. I was in a car, a whole bunch of the guys I was with, they were smoking. It was a contact high. Well, first of all, that's probably not true. But if you were either smoking it or in a car or a room, whatever, with a bunch of people who were doing it and you breathed it, consider yourself, you more than likely, if you're going to test positive, tell the commission. Tell the commission you were in a room with guys who were smoking weed. That way the commission can write it down, and when you do test positive for it, they'll know. But these guys generally say, no, I haven't done anything. They just check no on everything, and then when it does come back, they have nothing to say other than, I didn't read it correctly. Not good enough. It's up to the fighter, it's up to his manager to help him read that thing through. It's asking all about the substances that you may have taken or not taken. If you haven't taken them, say no. If you have taken any of them, say yes. And that's what these guys are just not doing. And they're going to look further into the Big Baby Miller thing. And if it is yes, just as his ex-manager, Rich Commissar, says, he's going to have to deal with the consequences. If he did it, if he took this substance, this GW 1516, he is going to have to deal with it. He's going to have to pay the consequences. He's going to have to do the suspension, or, as I look at it, a jail time. He might as well be in jail. I mean, Daniel, can you imagine? He's got that right in front of him, making all that millions of dollars. And it's not just the millions of dollars. It's the opportunity to become a world heavyweight champion and then make untold amounts of money. It's mind-blowing.
Randy, this brings to mind, now that I'm thinking of it, our good man from here in New Mexico, Johnny Tapia. He was right there on the brink of greatness, and then here came the cocaine, and it just about ruined his career. It just about did him in. Most people in New Mexico at that time, I remember, they were saying it was done. And I would run into Johnny down at the gym sometimes, and he'd tell me that I'm training, I'm coming back. But when I would come back and talk to the trainers around town, they would laugh and say, no, he's done. But he overcame it. He came back and went on to, pretty darn great career. So, of course, that wasn't a PED. I mean, that was more just a recreational, an addiction that he had, so it's different in that way. But, I mean, thinking about it, the day that they tested him and he, was positive, it was heartbreaking. Heartbreaking for all of his fans, the whole state. I mean, we loved him here in New Mexico. It almost cost him. So I hope Big Baby can, rebound from this and get his career back on track.
Of course, with Johnny Tapia, I mean, he had demons like we never even really, many of us knew some of them, but the demons he had, he just couldn't stay off the drugs. And eventually it was the drugs that killed him. Want to give a few shout-outs to a big boxing fan, Brad Johnson, and congratulations, your son. I saw, what is he, graduating the university, whatever. I saw that great picture of you guys. One of your top trainers out there, Keith Trimble, one of your, not just top trainers, one of your classy, just absolute classy. And people ask me again, sometimes when people don't know this business, Daniel, and everybody else, they'll say, how come you stay in such a seedy business? And I say, seedy business? I'm not in politics. I'm not in medicine. I'm not in medicine. I'm not in law. I'm in boxing. And I'm telling you, it's guys like you see right on the screen there, like the Farley Walds, like the Matt Happenings, like the Keith Trimbles, like you, Daniel. That's what keeps me in it. The great, great guys in this sport. It is a beautiful sport and beautiful guys in it. And I'm telling you, Big Baby Miller is a beautiful guy. He just did, maybe, the wrong thing. And again, I'm not going to sit here and convict him when the investigation is still going on. But let's just take it like this. Let's say he is found to be guilty of using the PEDs. He's going to be out of the fight. We talked about one of the guys they're throwing the name out, Ivan Ditchko, 6'9", from Kazakhstan, 7-0 with 7 knockouts. Baker, guys, you're throwing out some great names there. Of course, the one we mentioned before, Chris the Nipple Arreola. We're talking about Andy Ruiz, talking about King Kong Ortiz. That would be very interesting. Although I think, you know what? I don't think that Joshua would take him. But here's the thing. I think it would be a good thing if they did, because he's such an avoided fighter. But Daniel, did you see his last fight against Travis Kaufman?
Yeah, I did. I did see it.
He was pathetically slow. He won every round of the fight. Basically had opportunities to stop Kaufman. Finally stopped him in the 10th round. I thought Ortiz looked terrible. If he jumps in against Joshua, I think it could be a very big, impressive win for Joshua.
Well, the only thing is Ortiz has that one-punch power. You know, he's got a reputation as a power puncher at least. The only thing, I don't know, what is his age?
Nobody knows.
I think he's one age, but I think he looks a little older than what they say.
Well, you know, his listed age is somewhere around 40, 41, something like that. But I have heard talk that people who know say he is well up in his 40s, like 48, 49, something like that. Don't know. He's gotten away with it so far. He's lost only that one fight, that one shootout against Deontay Wilder. Let's see if he gets chosen to step in on June 1st. And here's another name. Baker, guys, you threw it out here. And I'm wondering, will it be Dillian White? I would love to see it be Dillian White, because this is truly, he's ready. And my guest is Daniel Sisneros, journalist from New Mexico, former judge, a journalist who wrote Mac Tales. What do you think about that? White against Joshua? Or it would be a rematch.
Yeah, I think Dillian White's qualified. You know, again, one of those guys who's put in the time, kind of earned the right. I mean, he's ranked pretty high, I think. I'd be kind of surprised that Joshua's management would accept that fight, him or Ortiz. I would think they would rather look down the list, try to find somebody a little bit less threatening. Again, I think Joshua would be the favorite over any of these guys, but I would love it. I would bring on Dillian White, bring on Luis Ortiz. I think either of those are exciting fights. But I don't know. I don't know what they're looking at. You know, it's not too short of notice, but it's a little bit of a change. You know, there's going to be a little bit of a short window there. There's a lot at stake for Joshua. You know, he's at the top of the mountain right now, so I don't know. I think Dillian White and Luis Ortiz on this short of notice, I'd be surprised, but I welcome both of them.
Well, you know, it is short notice, but it's not desperately short notice. It's not like this fight is being made May 25th or whatever. It is, we're pushing, today's the 17th. They still, if they got the notice tonight or tomorrow, they got the rest of this month. They got a couple weeks in this month, and they got the entire month of May to train. And if these guys are in shape, like Dillian White already is in shape, Chris Arreola is in shape, Andy Ruiz is putting up videos every day of how in shape he is. So I think it's going to be easy. Ivan Ditchko says he's there. He's ready to take the fight. So there are guys lined up. I'm just hoping that they don't come up with some guy that we absolutely know nothing about, maybe who has won one of his last 4 fights or something like that. They just throw somebody in there. I don't think they would do that. I really don't. I think it's going to be one of the names that we're throwing about, unless we just haven't thought about who it's going to be. Joe Rodriguez watching on Randy's Ringside. Big crowd tonight. And remember, I repost this, put it up on Randy's Ringside on Facebook. And you missed any part of it, check it out. Also, I'll be on Sirius XM's At the Fights on Friday night, channel 156 from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. One of my guests in studio is going to be the very beautiful, very knowledgeable boxing reporter Michelle Joy Phelps will be joining us. Me and gentleman Jerry Cooney, Bobby Webb watching us here on Randy's Ringside. Steve Schroeder from Arizona watching us. And who else? Michael Ayers, the expert on Sonny Liston and the heavyweight division. So, Sonny Ayers, who do you think is going to be fighting? Who will be fighting Anthony Joshua? Daniel, what do you? Did you remember Sonny Liston?
He was a little bit before my time, but of course I'm well aware of his reputation.
You know what's amazing? Growing up, I always thought that Sonny Liston was a giant. I thought Sonny Liston was about 10 feet tall, weighed about 2 tons. He was the biggest. He was bigger than life. Of course, later on, I realized he still was a big man with these long arms, powerful jab, hook, right cross, and everything. Do you know that when you think about Evander Holyfield, do you think a big heavyweight or a small heavyweight?
Yeah, we think small heavyweight.
Think about this. Evander Holyfield was the same size as Sonny Liston.
That's that reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now that you mention it, when you think of Sonny Liston, you think of the big bruising giant.
Yeah.
But,
well,
people have gotten so much bigger. Can you imagine? The 6'7", 6'8", 6'9"
it is
heavyweights nowadays,
truly,
the 220
truly,
is 225 is a small heavyweight nowadays. Can you imagine that?
And I mean, Ali in his prime was always good at around 215 or so. And, Sonny Liston, Evander Holyfield went at around 215 in that area. George Foreman went about 223, something like that. Deontay Wilder came in like a couple fights in a row at 215 and a half. Everybody said, why is he so light? Guys are just coming in bigger now. 245 for Anthony Joshua. Big Baby Miller, over 300 pounds, and all the rest of these guys. Ditchko goes about 260. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens over the next couple of days as an opponent will be chosen for Anthony Joshua, because I'm hearing that it just is not looking good for Big Baby Miller to stay in this fight on June 1st. I don't see how he's going to get out of it unless sample B tests negative. Sample A was positive, and basically sample A and B are the same sample, just in different jars or whatever. So I don't see how he's going to get out of it. So once again, Daniel Sisneros has joined me tonight on Randy's Ringside. You've done a great job. Again, Mat Tales is his book, and you can get it on Amazon.com. Is there any other place where you can find it? Or is that the best place?
Amazon is the place to get the book.
Okay, then.
If anybody would like a signed copy, they could contact me by email or on Facebook, and I'd be glad to, send them a copy too.
Absolutely, and I love talking about it because it's such a great book, Mat Tales. And if anybody does want to get it signed, as you heard, Daniel will sign it for you. If you want to get in touch with him, you can. You can ask me to get in touch with him, and I'll certainly do that. Stephen Kennedy, got to get his copy. I know that. So you get your copies of Mat Tales, and it just came out last week, my book, Randy's Ringside. It's actually Glove Affair.
I think mine's supposed to arrive tomorrow, Randy. I'm still waiting, and it's supposed to be here tomorrow.
I think Baker Geist got his. I know Farley got his. A bunch of the guys, Brian Jaffe got theirs. It was so great signing their books and all. And you can get it on Amazon.com. You can get it on Roman, ROWMAN.com, and your local bookstores are carrying it right now. With that about wraps up our hour here on Randy's Ringside. Daniel, you did a great job. Love to have you back again, buddy.
Thank you, Randy. It's a lot of fun. It's a blast. I'm a collector of boxing. I have thousands and thousands of videos, and every once in a while when I'm doing something for somebody, here comes Randy Gordon. You know, some of the fights you used to do on USA Network, or
really,
you know, I see you clowning around with Vinny Paz. You know. And
oh my God,
you know.
You know
It
what?
was a lot of fun. Those were the good old days.
You want to see a great Vinny Paz fight that I called? It was a great victory. He knocks out, I think it was Melvin Paul, early with one big shot. He winds up, he does the right hand thing, comes over the top, boom, hits him on the chin. Melvin Paul falls flat down on his face. I actually jumped into the ring afterwards, and if I'm correct, I think I gave Vinny Paz a hot dog. I said, "You are the biggest hot dog in boxing." You know, he could take it. Most of the guys, they love stuff like that. That's the one thing I miss about TV, not being able to jump in the ring with those guys and do my shtick with them.
I loved it. I mean, it's like you guys were like a comedy act. Vinny and Randy. I remember that. I remember him putting his fist up there, and you're calling me a hot dog. And oh man, that was
Wow.
a fun time, Randy.
Good memory. Yep. Back in the days of USA Network, me and Al Albert. And of course, the question is, when I left to become commissioner in 1988, I was replaced on the USA Network. Who did they replace me with?
Oh boy, that's a good one.
Come on.
On USA Network, was it Sean O'Grady?
You got it. The Champ. Who would have thought that for the next 10 years, the Champ would be side by side with my buddy Al Albert. The Alberts are great to work with. Every announcer I think I ever worked with, Bruce Beck from Madison Square Garden Network, and Sam Rosen, and just the whole crew. And now up at Sirius Radio with Gentleman Jerry Cooney, it is just so much fun. Hey, everybody.
Oh, Randy, you're living the life, man. You're living the life. Awesome.
And as I tell Jerry, I say, Jerry, they actually pay us for this.
That's what I used to say when I was judging. I'd sit up there up against the ring, best seat in the house, and look around and say, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. I would pay them to let me do this, you know?
Would you do me a favor and start to think about, maybe not look into yet, start to think about, because I'm going to lean on you. I want you to be a judge. I really want you to be a judge again. You're a good judge. You know the sport. And we get so sick of seeing these fights go 10, 12 rounds, whatever, and we know that fighter A won, and they go to scorecards, and it wasn't fighter A. They're looking at something else. Come on back as a judge, will you?
Well, thank you. I'll consider it. You know, I got referee Rocky Burke out here in New Mexico, and he's always telling me,
sure.
You need to come back to the commission, you know, get back on. And I don't know. I'll consider it, Randy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Well, he's coming back on.
That's an honor.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for jumping aboard tonight on Randy's Ringside. And again, the book he wrote is Matt Tales. It's a great book. Get yourself a copy of it. And Daniel Sisneros will sign it for you. Hey, thanks everybody for jumping aboard Randy's Ringside tonight. I'm here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll be on Sirius XM's At the Fights on Friday night with Gentleman Jerry Cooney from 6 to 8 p.m. Have yourself a great rest of the night, and whatever you do, be safe. And Daniel, here's what I do with Gentleman Jerry Cooney. I give a count. I go, it's 8, 9, and 10. And Jerry says, we're out. So I'm gonna do that, and you're gonna be Jerry Cooney. So here we go, everybody. Thanks for watching, and whatever you do, be safe. I'm Randy G for Daniel Sisneros. Thanks everybody for watching. 8, 9, and 10, Daniel.